In the ancient kingdom of Maali, a land of vast landscapes and colorful villages, the people lived in harmony under the reign of the just King Akita. However, a dark mistake from the past was about to demand a debt that would change the destiny of his daughter, the princess. Princess Candy, loved by all, was known for her grace and generosity. From a young age, she had roamed the streets of the kingdom, always ready to help anyone in need. Her connection to the people was deep, and her beauty rivaled the stars in the clear nights of Maali. Yet, despite all her virtues, Candy was marked by a curse she did not know but that would soon begin to manifest in a terrible way. Many years before Candy was born, King Akita was a proud and ambitious young man. He ruled with a firm hand and believed his success depended on his image of strength and power. One day, while visiting the market of the kingdom, he encountered an elderly woman of humble appearance who begged for help. "Your Majesty, please help me," pleaded the old woman, raising a trembling hand towards the young King Akita. "I have lost everything and have nowhere to go." Uncomfortable with the situation, the king looked at her with disdain and said, "Do not dare disturb the peace of my kingdom with your misery. Keep your dignity, even in poverty." His words were cold and cutting. Though the crowd around him laughed at his remark, the old woman remained silent, her face filled with dignity and pain. But the old woman was not a mere beggar. She was a sage from the mountains, known for her magical abilities and for punishing those who abused their power. Enraged by the king's arrogance, she whispered a curse that would seal the fate of his lineage. "Your daughter will be born with incomparable beauty, but to the eyes of the world, she will always appear naked, no matter what she wears. This will disgrace your lineage and mark your kingdom with shame." King Akita, convinced these were the ramblings of a madwoman, paid no attention to the warning. He continued his life, forgetting the encounter entirely, unaware that his daughter's fate had been sealed by that curse. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this story, and activate notifications so you don't miss any of our tales. Now let's continue. As Candy grew, her beauty was admired by all, and her kindness made her even more beloved among her people. However, upon reaching adulthood, something strange began to happen. No matter what clothes she wore, no matter how modest or elegant, they all saw her as if she were walking naked. The villagers began to whisper, and rumors spread like wildfire throughout the kingdom. "It's the princess, but it seems like she isn't wearing any clothes," they said, unable to comprehend what their eyes were seeing. At first, Candy didn't understand what was happening. She knew she was dressed appropriately, but the looks of astonishment and scorn she received filled her with confusion and pain. Over time, the situation became unbearable. She could no longer walk the streets of the kingdom without feeling the eyes of others piercing her skin, as if there were no barrier between her and the world. Desperate, Candy turned to her father for answers. Finally, King Akita, recalling the old woman's curse, confessed what had happened. "It is my fault," he said, his voice breaking. "I was arrogant and scorned an old woman who cursed us. Now you are paying the price for my mistake." Although hurt, Candy decided not to let herself be defeated. She knew she had to find a way to break the curse. With determination, she embarked on a journey beyond the borders of Maali, seeking a cure for her torment. Accompanied by a small group of loyal advisors, Candy traveled through villages and mountains, consulting sages and healers, but no one seemed to have a clear answer. Every place she arrived, it brought new hopes, only to be quickly crushed by the lack of solutions. One day, after months of fruitless searching, she reached a remote village nestled deep within a dense forest. There lived an elderly healer whose wisdom was legendary. Upon seeing the princess, the old man immediately understood what was happening to her. "I know your story, princess," said the healer. The curse you bear cannot be broken by conventional means. It is not just magic, but an error that must be corrected by the one who caused it." Candy, with tears in her eyes, begged the old man to explain how she could free herself from the curse. "Forgiveness is the key," the healer replied. "Your father must seek the forgiveness of the old woman. It does not matter if she is alive or dead. Only the act of genuine repentance can break the chains that bind you to this curse." Candy knew what had to be done. She returned to the kingdom of Maali with renewed determination and spoke to her father. Filled with guilt, he decided to undertake the journey with her to find the resting place of the old woman and beg for her forgiveness. King Akita and Candy, accompanied by a few advisors, traveled to where the old woman had lived. There, they discovered that she had passed away years earlier and had been buried in a small cemetery on the outskirts of the village. With a heavy heart, King Akita knelt before the old woman's grave, pleading for her forgiveness. "Dear elder, I failed you," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I was arrogant and cruel, and now my daughter suffers because of my mistake. Please forgive me and free my daughter from this curse. I am truly sorry." As the king spoke, a gentle breeze swept through the area, filling the air with a sweet, calming fragrance. Candy felt an inner peace she had never experienced before. Looking to the sky, she saw the clouds parting, and rays of sunlight illuminated the old woman's grave. Suddenly, the curse that had weighed on her for so many years was lifted. Candy no longer felt naked before the world. Her body and soul were finally free. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this story, and activate notifications so you don't miss any of our tales. Now let's continue. Back in Maali, the people noticed the change in Candy. They no longer saw her as naked. Instead, they saw her for who she truly was, a strong, dignified, and compassionate woman. The kingdom celebrated her liberation with a grand feast, and King Akita, having learned a profound lesson in humility and forgiveness, vowed to be a better leader for his people. Candy, for her part, continued to serve her kingdom with wisdom and kindness, her story of struggle and redemption inspiring everyone. The kingdom of Maali thrived under her leadership, and its people learned that the real chains are not physical but those forged by pride and lack of compassion. With the curse broken and peace restored in Maali, Candy soon realized her life was destined for much more than the shadows of the past. The relief of finally being seen for who she truly was filled her heart with renewed strength. As the days went on, her confidence grew, but so did her awareness of the wounds that still lingered in her kingdom. Though the princess had been freed, many people in the kingdom continued to suffer from inequality and injustice. Candy had encountered these stories during her journey to break the curse, and now that she was free from the shackles of her past, she resolved to do something about it. One morning, Candy met with the elders and leaders of the Maali Council in the Great Hall of the palace. King Akita, who had shown a genuine change in his way of ruling, joined her. He sat beside her, proud of his daughter but aware that his time as the sole leader had passed. "I have been freed from a curse that not only affected me but also tarnished our reputation as a kingdom," Candy began, her voice clear and firm. "But I have seen the suffering of my people, and I cannot remain in the palace while others continue to bear the weight of poverty, injustice, and lack of opportunity. It is time for us to do more than rule from the throne. It is time to act on behalf of those who have no voice." The counselors and elders exchanged glances, surprised by the young princess's determination. Many of them were older men accustomed to tradition, but they knew Candy was right. There was a spark of change in the air, something that could no longer be ignored. King Akita nodded, showing his support for his daughter's decision. "Candy is right," he said humbly. "I have made mistakes in the past, but now I see that our people need more than a just government. They need leadership willing to walk alongside them, not simply dictate from above. With the council's approval and the king's backing, Candy devised an ambitious plan to transform Moali into a kingdom where everyone had the same opportunities to prosper. She began by traveling once again to the villages, this time not seeking answers but listening to her people. She wanted to understand firsthand their struggles, hopes, and dreams. The villagers, who had once avoided looking directly at her because of the curse, now welcomed her with respect and saw her as a leader who had overcome adversity and was ready to tackle the challenges of her kingdom with the same courage she had shown in facing her own curse. "What do you need most?" Candy would ask the inhabitants of each village she visited. The answers varied. Some asked for better infrastructure for trade, others for greater access to education, and many simply longed for justice and fairness. Candy took note of all these demands and returned to Moali with a clear vision of what needed to be done. One of the first changes she implemented was creating a more accessible justice system. Previously, disputes and conflicts were resolved at the palace, which made it difficult for many villagers to access justice due to distance or lack of influence. Candy established local courts in each village, where fair and wise judges could resolve the people's issues quickly and efficiently. She also initiated education programs for the youth, ensuring that all children, regardless of their background, had access to learning how to read, write, and develop skills for a brighter future. As Moali prospered under Candy's renewed leadership, news arrived from a distant land. Prince Lemba, a young man known for his bravery and strong sense of justice, had heard of the transformation of Moali and Candy's liberation from her curse. Intrigued by the stories of the princess and her new role in the kingdom, Lemba decided to undertake a journey to meet the woman he so greatly admired. When Lemba arrived in Moali, he was not the first prince to visit Candy with hopes of forming an alliance. But there was something different about his humility and sincerity. He did not come to claim but to learn. He did not bring empty promises but a willingness to work alongside her to continue building a fairer kingdom. Candy, impressed by his attitude, agreed to meet him. The two spent weeks conversing about their ideas on justice, governance, and the future of their respective kingdoms. During those days, they found a shared vision and mutual respect that deepened with every conversation. Candy began to see in Lemba more than just a visiting prince. Their mutual respect and shared commitment to the well-being of their people united them in a way that went beyond politics. One day, as they strolled through the palace gardens, Lemba turned to Candy and said, "I've heard the stories about your curse, about everything you suffered. Yet, you are not the broken person I expected to find. You're stronger than anyone could have imagined." Candy, smiling warmly, replied, "My strength doesn't just come from breaking the curse. It comes from learning to forgive. First my father and then myself. Forgiveness frees us from the chains of the past, but it also prepares us to build something new." Lemba nodded, understanding the profound meaning behind her words. In that moment, he realized he had found not just a queen worthy of his respect, but someone with whom he wanted to share his life. Over time, the relationship between Candy and Lemba blossomed, not as the typical love story of a prince and princess, but as a union rooted in respect, admiration, and a shared vision of justice and equity. The day they decided to marry, the kingdom of Moali erupted in joy. It was not just the union of two strong and just leaders they celebrated, but also a symbol of a new beginning for the kingdom. Candy and Lemba promised not only to rule with wisdom but to continue their work of listening to their people and striving for the well-being of everyone, regardless of their status or wealth. Under their leadership, Moali became an example for other kingdoms in the region. The story of the princess who once walked through the village seemingly unclothed every day, but who broke free from her curse through forgiveness became a legend passed down from generation to generation. The kingdom flourished not just in material wealth but in equality, compassion, and justice. The people no longer remembered Candy as the cursed princess but as the queen who had transformed her destiny and that of her people, showing that true strength comes not from power but from love, forgiveness, and empathy. And so, Mali continued to prosper under the bright sun of a future filled with hope, guided by leaders who had learned that the true wealth of a kingdom lies in its people and the justice that governs their hearts. Let me know in the comments what you thought of today's story. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and